You drive past them every single morning on your commute. Rows of pristine, showroom-polished metal sitting behind manicured turf, glowing under stadium lights that burn money 24 hours a day. And somewhere inside that glass cage, a salesman is smoothing down his tie, watching you pull up in your tired 5-year-old sedan. He doesn't see a human being trying to survive a brutal week. He sees a target. He sees a walking, breathing contract waiting to be signed. You walk onto that lot because you tell yourself you've earned an upgrade. You tell yourself that after 50 hours of staring at spreadsheets, dealing with a micromanaging boss, and choking down stale break-room coffee, you deserve something nice. You deserve to smell that artificial factory leather. You deserve to feel the heavy thud of a solid door closing against the outside world. So you sit behind the wheel, grip the steering wheel, and look at your reflection in the rear-view mirror. You look successful. You look like a winner. But behind your eyes, there's a quiet, cold panic that you refuse to name. Because deep down, you already know the ugly truth. You didn't buy that car. The car bought you. It locked its jaws around your paycheck for the next 84 months, chained your future to an interest rate that defies common sense, and turned every single workday into a mandatory prison sentence just to keep up appearances. And that is the quiet, unspoken sickness of modern life. We spend money we don't have to buy things we don't actually need, to impress people we fundamentally despise. It's an entire civilization built on the architecture of the counterfeit. We are trading our finite, irreplaceable hours of life for high-definition televisions, designer logos stitched by underpaid teenagers overseas, and oversized kitchen islands in cookie-cutter suburban homes that were too exhausted to ever actually sit in. Look at your own life for a second. Strip away the social media filters, the carefully curated vacation photos, and the polished exterior you project to the world. What is actually left? A pile of plastic cards with mounting balances, a monthly statement that arrives like a physical blow to the stomach, and a crushing, chronic exhaustion that sleep can't fix. The system didn't force you into this cage at gunpoint. It was much smarter than that. It handed you the key, smiled politely, and convinced you that locking yourself inside was a sign of status. Think about the sheer insanity of the modern credit score. A 3-digit number engineered entirely by banking algorithms to measure how efficiently you can manage your own enslavement. You are conditioned to feel a rush of pride when your score ticks up a few points, as if getting a gold star from your corporate master for handling debt like a good little pet is an actual achievement. You are rewarded for playing their game well. And what is the reward? The privilege of borrowing more money to buy more junk that loses half its value the second you cut the price tag off. It's a closed-loop ecosystem designed to harvest your youth. Every single dollar you pump into maintaining an artificial lifestyle is a vote for your own captivity. Your working jobs you secretly loathe, tolerating toxic office politics, and swallowing your pride day after day, all so you can maintain a standard of living that exists purely in the minds of strangers scrolling through their phones on a Tuesday night. Let's look at the mathematics of your daily routine. You wake up before the sun. You rush through traffic, listening to noise disguised as morning radio, arriving at a desk where your output is measured, monetized and skimmed by people who haven't worked an honest hour in a decade. You grind for 8, 10, 12 hours. Why? So you can afford the mortgage on a house that's too big to clean, the insurance on a vehicle that depreciates while it sits in your driveway, And the monthly subscriptions to 3 different streaming services you never even watch because you fall asleep on the couch at 9 p.m. with your work laptop glowing on your chest. You are paying a heavy, compounding tax just to look successful on the outside while your internal world rots away from chronic stress. And the most terrifying part isn't even the debt itself. The real terror is how completely normalized it has become. Look to your left at dinner. Look to your right at the office. Look at your family members bragging about their new upgrades during the holidays. Everyone is drowning, but everyone is smiling for the camera. They're all paddling frantically beneath the surface, pretending they aren't slowly sinking into the dark water of financial ruin. All because admitting the truth would mean shattering the fragile illusion that they actually have their lives together. But once you pull back the curtain and look at the raw mechanics of this game, you can never unsee it. The machinery doesn't break your spirit all at once. It uses a much more effective tool. A slow, unnoticeable drip of exhaustion that dulls your resistance over years. You wake up every single morning to an alarm clock that feels like a physical insult, dragging your body out of bed before your brain has even rebooted. You rush through a morning routine designed entirely for efficiency. Grab a coffee that costs as much as a small meal just to inject artificial alertness into your veins and dive straight into the congested rush hour traffic. You sit there surrounded by thousands of other exhausted human beings, all staring blankly through their windshields, each of them trapped in their own invisible cage of monthly obligations. And as you crawl inch by inch toward a sterile office building, a toxic thought crosses your mind, a thought so common that you've learned to accept it as normal. You tell yourself that if you just survive the next 5 days, you get to buy your freedom back for 48 hours over the weekend. That right there is the fundamental deception of the modern schedule. We have been conditioned to trade 5 whole days of our actual existence in exchange for 2 chaotic, overpriced days of temporary relief. And how do we spend those precious 48 hours? We use them to recover from the damage inflicted by the very job we're working so hard to keep. By Friday evening, your nervous system is so fried, your patience so completely depleted, and your soul so drained of vitality that cooking a proper meal or reading a book feels like scaling a mountain. So what do? You surrender to the convenience tax. You open your phone, tap a glowing app, and order a $30 dinner delivered directly to your doorstep by an exhausted gig worker who is just as trapped as you are. You pour a glass of expensive wine, sink into the couch, and turn on a glowing screen to distract yourself from the quiet, gnawing realization that your entire week was just converted into spreadsheets and corporate memos that no one will remember by next Tuesday. The architects of this system understand human psychology better than you understand it yourself. They know that a broken, exhausted human being is infinitely easier to market to than a rested, self-aware one. When your energy reserves are sitting at 0, your brain stops looking for long-term fulfillment and starts begging for immediate, cheap relief. That sudden impulse buy on your phone at midnight, that wasn't a random whim. That was a direct chemical transaction. Your brain was starving for a dopamine hit to compensate for the crushing emptiness of your daily routine, and corporations have spent billions of dollars engineering digital storefronts to be the ultimate fast food joints for your starving self-worth. You don't actually want the item that arrives in a cardboard box 3 days later. What you wanted was the tiny, fleeting spike of excitement when you click the purchase button. It's a chemical bandage slapped over a gushing wound, and the bleeding starts right back up the moment the package arrives. Level 1. The dopamine toll. This is why looking successful is the most expensive hobby you can possibly adopt. Every single status symbol you accumulate acts as an emotional anchor, dragging you deeper down into the muddy floor of the financial swamp. You buy the oversized apartment because you want guests to walk in and immediately calculate your worth based on the square footage. But what happens when the lease renewal arrives with a 12% price hike? You don't dare move out because that would mean admitting to your peers that you're scaling back. So you quietly absorb the blow, cut back on your grocery budget, and double down on the overtime at an office where your contribution is rewarded with pizza parties instead of equity. You become a hostage to your own address. You are paying rent on a lifestyle that exists solely to impress people who wouldn't even remember your name if you disappeared tomorrow. And the most insidious part of this psychological trap is how it isolates you from reality. Everyone around you is playing the exact same exhausting game of make-believe. Your neighbors are financing brand new crossovers they can't afford. Your coworkers are flexing vacations they charged to high-interest credit cards, and your friends are posting curated snapshots of happiness while their bank accounts sit dangerously close to zero. Nobody is willing to break character because everyone is terrified of being the first one to admit that the emperor has no clothes. You are all trapped in a synchronized dance of mutual destruction, smiling through clenched teeth while the invisible walls of debt close in a little bit tighter with every passing month. But feeling the exhaustion is only the beginning of the awakening. Oh, let's strip away the emotional exhaustion, the glossy marketing brochures, and the soothing lies you tell yourself in the mirror, and look at the raw, unvarnished numbers. Because the human brain is easily manipulated by shiny objects and social pressure. But mathematics doesn't care about your feelings, your pride, or your desire to look impressive at your high school reunion. The bank that approved your 84-month car loan didn't do it because they liked your smile or respected your hard work. They did it because they built a mathematical extraction machine designed to siphon the most productive years of your life right out of your checking account, drop by drop, month after month. Level 2. The compound trap. Consider the true cost of lifestyle creep using the lens of opportunity cost. The mathematical ghost haunting every single purchase you make to impress strangers. When you finance a $50,000 luxury vehicle that you don't actually need, you aren't just paying the $50,000. With current interest rates, dealer fees, inflated insurance premiums, and maintenance costs, that vehicle easily swallows $70,000 of your hard-earned cash over its lifespan. But that is only the visible half of the equation. If you had taken that exact same monthly payment and redirected it into a broad market index fund compounding at a modest historical average over 30 years, that single car would cost you nearly $500,000 in lost future wealth. You didn't just buy a depreciating hunk of metal with leather seats. You traded a staggering $500,000 of future freedom, peace of mind, and the absolute luxury of walking away from a toxic job, all for 6 years of feeling slightly superior at red lights. Think about the sheer insanity of this exchange. You are literally selling your future liberty in wholesale quantities just to buy retail dopamine today. Every single time you upgrade your phone, supersize your apartment, or finance a vacation you haven't saved for, you are casting a vote to extend your own prison sentence inside the corporate machine. The system relies entirely on your inability to connect today's purchase with tomorrow's catastrophe. They hand you a credit card with a high limit, flash a golden reward program in your face, and teach you to celebrate when your credit score ticks up a few points, as if getting a pat on the head from your financial master for managing debt efficiently is a badge of honor. You are being praised for running faster on a wheel that goes absolutely nowhere. Let's look at the math of your monthly cash flow, the cold ledger that dictates whether you live as an independent human being or a corporate tenant. Your paycheck hits your account on Friday morning, and within 48 hours it has already been completely carved up and distributed to entities you've never met. The mortgage company takes their massive slice for a house that is far too large to clean. The auto lender takes their mandatory tribute. The credit card companies collect their high-interest toll for the privilege of letting you buy groceries 2 weeks before your next deposit. By Sunday night, your net worth for the month is practically zero, and the cycle resets. You are running a financial marathon with heavy chains wrapped around both ankles, wondering why you're gasping for air while the people cheering from the sidelines keep telling you to run faster. The most terrifying realization isn't that you're currently drowning in this cycle. It's the horrifying statistical reality that if your primary source of income vanished tomorrow morning, your entire artificial empire would completely collapse in less than 30 days. You don't own a life. You own an expensive subscription to a lifestyle that you can never afford to pause, let alone cancel. You are trapped in a fragile house of cards, terrified of blinking too hard because you know that a single medical emergency, a sudden layoff, or a broken transmission would send the whole structure crashing down on your head. And still, despite the constant low-grade terror humming in the back of your mind, you wake up on Monday, put on the uniform, and head right back into the maze. You walk back into the glass office, sit at the desk, and smile at the boss who owns your tomorrow. But the math doesn't lie, and the clock is ticking down the hours of your youth. The exit door from the maze doesn't have a neon sign flashing above it, and nobody is standing there waiting to hand you a trophy when you finally reach it. The escape route requires something far more terrifying than working 80 hours a week or chasing another corporate promotion. It requires you to willingly embrace the sweet, profound, and utterly radical art of being completely irrelevant to people whose opinions never mattered in the first place. This is where the architecture of modern status officially collapses under its own weight, and the concept of stealth wealth steps in to rebuild your reality from the ground up. You spend the first half of your adult life paying a devastating psychological tax just to project an image of success to strangers at traffic lights, co-workers in break rooms, and algorithms on glowing screens. But the moment you decide to stop paying that tax, the illusion shatters and you realize something liberating. The audience was never actually watching you anyway. They were all too busy worrying about their own performances to notice yours. Level 3. The Ghost Protocol. True freedom in a consumerist society doesn't look like a fleet of luxury vehicles parked outside a mansion with a crushing mortgage. True freedom looks like a used sedan that starts every single time you turn the key, completely paid for, sitting in the driveway of a modest home where the mortgage is shrinking month by month. It looks like a bank account with enough liquid reserves to let you look your boss dead in the eye during a toxic meeting and walk out the door without feeling a single spike of panic in your chest. That is what Daniel Rath calls the FU money threshold. The exact mathematical point where your accumulated autonomy outweighs your fear of missing out. When you stop trading your finite, irreplaceable hours of life for shiny plastic trinkets and temporary social validation, your monthly burn rate plummets like a stone. Suddenly, you don't need to grind 50 hours a week just to service the interest on your own vanity. You reclaim your mornings, your weekends, and your peace of mind. Think about the psychological profile of the person who has truly escaped the rat race. They aren't flashing designer logos on social media. Because advertising your wealth to the world is nothing more than sending an open invitation to every predator, bank, and tax collector in the ecosystem. The masters of the modern matrix want you broke, loud, and heavily indebted, because a quiet person who owns their time is impossible to control. That is why the ultimate rebellion of our era is invisibility. You become a ghost in the machine. You drive an ordinary car, wear unbranded clothes that fit well, live in a space that serves your actual needs rather than your ego, and invest every single surplus dollar into assets that buy back your future rather than items that depreciate the moment you tear off the receipt. You stop buying things to impress people you don't even like, and you start buying your permanent exit ticket from the corporate plantation. And make no mistake, walking away from the herd is a lonely business at first. When your friends are stretching their finances to the breaking point to fund destination weddings, leased European crossovers, and oversized suburban homes, your decision to live below your means will make them deeply uncomfortable. They will call you boring, cautious, or overly frugal. They will try to pull you back into the collective delusion because your financial discipline serves as an uncomfortable mirror to their own reckless choices. Let them talk. Let them keep running faster on their golden wheels while their bank accounts bleed out in slow motion. While they are busy financing a lifestyle they can't sustain, you are quietly accumulating the one thing money was actually invented to buy: absolute, uncompromised sovereignty over your own schedule. The maze is designed to keep you running until you drop. But the door was unlocked the entire time. You just had to stop caring about what the other rats thought of your cage. My name is Daniel Rath. If you made it this far, drop a comment saying Invisible Vault. Everyone else will think you're crazy, but we'll know you're awake. I'll see you outside the maze.